Hey everybody, it's Tim Whittemore here with the Whittemore Group over here at eXp Realty. Today we're going to talk about the 10 common mistakes that buyers make. Now, whether you've purchased one house or 50 houses or none at all, here's some good either reminders or tips moving forward to find your next home. So first things first, guys, is knowing what you can afford. Now, you can simply kind of put this together by making a list of all your expenses. They call this doing a budget. If you haven't actually put the budget through, let's just make a whole list of things like monthly recurring expenses, like your vehicle costs, student loans, credit card payments, health insurance, all of those other fun things, and kind of put it together. Don't forget your annual expenses as well, such as insurance, annual vacations, if you're so lucky to go on those, and kind of put them all together and then see what you can afford. Maybe not exactly what you're paying now for rent, but definitely get a good idea what that is. And that way you can kind of figure out what your monthly payment's going to be, and you can go on to any of the free resources that they have out there to look at your mortgage loan calculator to see what you can afford. And when you do put those in, make sure not just to include what the price is. They'll be asking for your taxes, and it'll also be asking for your insurance and any applicable HOA or homeowners association fees that you might have with that. And then you'll start to have a good idea of what's going on with that. All right, so the next one is a big one. It is skipping your mortgage qualification. So here's a big thing. You got to figure out what the bank's going to be able to lend you. Unless you're one of those lucky people that have cash in hand that can just go ahead and purchase a house in a week or two, you're probably going to have to finance this. So let's figure out exactly what you can afford prior to going out there. Now, the things that go into that, now the best person to actually ask is a mortgage loan originator. And if you're curious about any of that, you can of course reach out to me, reach out to any of your helpful real estate agents, and they'll be able to help you out to get you with one. But I can give you the bottom line up front. There's two things that they're going to be looking for. They're going to be looking at your credit, and they're going to be looking at your income and what they call your debt to income ratio, and to see if it's stable. Based on those things, are going to be able to figure out what you can afford, and then your credit score is going to determine what your interest rate's going to be. And there's a bunch more going in with that, but those are some things to kind of consider as you're moving forward. Make sure before you get started that you do get pre-qualified or pre-approved. What's the difference? A pre-qualification is typically just a 15-minute conversation over the phone with your mortgage loan originator, and the pre-approval is the lender going through and processing an application. Now, of course, the approval is stronger than the qualification, but if we at least get the qualification, that should be good to go. Once you have that, the reason that you need to do this is really twofold. The market that we're in, at least right now at the time that I'm recording this video, it's a seller's market. If we go out and we find a house that's priced right and dressed right, and you go out there and somebody else puts in an offer the same as yours, and one has a pre-qualification, the other one doesn't, who do you think the seller's going to go with? Yeah, somebody that proves that they can afford it, right? The next one as well is it's just emotionally draining. If you go out and you found a house and you fall in love with it, and you're like, I love this one, and then you go out to get your qualification thereafter, after the deal's through, well, and they tell you that you've got $20,000, $30,000 less that you can afford than that house, that's just emotionally draining. And trust me, there's enough emotions going on in purchasing a house that you probably don't want to have to go through that. So get pre-qualified, please, 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 please do that. The next is not considering other expenses. So some of the other expenses that you might see come through aren't just with the mortgage. There's two other things that you might want to consider. One is that you're going to have to be paying property taxes, and you're also going to have to insure your house against disasters, also known as homeowners insurance. Now, those are typically mixed in with the mortgage itself, which gives you the actual full mortgage payment, but something else to consider. It's not just the house price that's in your monthly calculations. One other thing too is if you're purchasing a condo or in a neighborhood that has a homeowners association, know that those are extra monthly fees that you'll be paying to help with management for the HOA and all the other things. But we'll talk about that in another video later. So just make sure to consider that first so that you don't get into that sort of predicament. Next is don't be too picky. When you're actually going through, make sure to put a big list of everything that you possibly want and go into that. But don't be so inflexible that you sit there renting and don't actually move on a house that has just about everything that you want in there, and then you end up settling on something later. Or you stay in and you rent longer trying to find that perfect home where you could have had equity building that entire time. Rule of thumb that I tell most of my buyers is that, well, not just most of them, all of them, is that if you find something that's within 85 to 95% of what you said that you were looking for, that's usually a good indication to go and put an offer in on that house. Next is a big one, and it's kind of hard to teach. It's something that we as real estate agents typically get over time, and that's lacking vision. What I mean by that is, know that if you go into a house and it's got awesome wallpaper all throughout that was clearly in back in the 70s, and and it's priced right, it's in the neighborhood you want, and again, it's between that 85 to 95%. Think about it this way. Think what that would look like if you tore that down and put new paint on. Don't ever paint over wallpaper. That's terrible. But just see the vision the way that it could be and things that you could do yourself. Those are some things. YouTube's a great resource. You might even be watching this on YouTube right now. So definitely check that out and try to see things as it could be with you updating fixtures and things of that nature. So another one is being swept away. Let's talk about that. You could take probably $1,000, $500 to maybe $2,000 for your standard size home and upgrade some cosmetic fixtures. Maybe it's just painting. Those are some inexpensive tricks that some sellers use to play on your emotions as a buyer. They want you to fall in love with this home and not really think about it. And they may only pay $2,000 for those upgrades, but may actually get $5,000 more in their actual offer price. So think about that when you are going through. So don't just look at one home. I suggest that you look at least three, just to be able to compare and contrast between two, apples to apples, if you've heard of that. So definitely don't jump on emotion right too quick. Make sure that you have somebody objective. Definitely, if you have hired a real estate agent, to ask their opinion to make sure that it's the right decision for you. One thing also that they do is staging those houses, which of course is a little bit more expensive, makes it look really pretty. But if you don't have the same furniture, remember that whole vision thing I just talked about? Perfect. One other thing as well that people have is they cave on important things. What's that really mean? So you end up buying a 2-bedroom house when you know that you're planning on having kids later, and you actually do need a 3-bedroom. Another example would be buying a condo because it's cheaper, but you're already over the apartment life. I don't know if you're like me, but you've lived next to some place and it feels like there's maybe just paper for walls and you can hear every bit of the conversation on the other side there. Yeah. If you're over that, then don't buy into it. The condo, you might own it, but you're still in the same life there. So don't cave on the important things that you really want and need in your next home. Also, don't neglect an inspection. Now, at the beginning of this, there's an optional inspection. I'm going to use quotation marks, optional inspection for you to go through to know exactly what shape that house is in prior to you actually going ahead and purchasing it. Now, I would hate to purchase a car that was a lemon, that they knew something was wrong and you end up, and then it's just a money pit that you just start throwing money back into just to keep this thing running. Same thing with your house. You don't get an inspection, maybe that roof's about to cave in. Maybe the HVAC, so your heating and cooling, is about to go out. It may cost a couple of $100s up front, but it is going to save you so much more if you can get the seller to pay or fix those things prior to moving into that. Now, one thing I haven't alluded to yet, but some people do this, and not use an agent when they're actually looking for a home. At least here in the state of Florida and a lot of the other states, buyer's agents are free representation to you as a buyer. The seller pays all the commissions, so as long as you like and trust us, when we're going to do a good job for you, it's really just a no-brainer to go ahead and get us in on the deal. There's tons of stuff out there that we can do to help you, but you can probably see if you walk into, say, an open house and you have the listing agent that's there and they're representing the list or the selling, selling. They're the listing agent for the house, or they're representing the seller. Know that they probably and ethically shouldn't be trying to push out the sale for them, but you can see how they can't really represent one side and the other at the same time without having some favor to the other. It's just human nature. So get a buyer's agent in there. It's not going to cost you any more. Despite what you might think, using the listing agent does not lessen the opportunity for you to actually get a better deal. Actually, I think it's less than that. So definitely go out and get an agent. Just know that if they're realtors or real estate agents, there is a difference. If they have signed and said that they're going to be part of the National Associations of Realtors, that they do abide to a code of ethics, which makes them leaps and bounds different than just a real estate agent. So definitely ask that when you are interviewing. Just a little extra thing there. Last I'm going to have for you is not thinking about the future. Now, we can't predict those different things, right? But you can ask your real estate professional a couple of things like, what are the development plans for this area? Like if you're moving into a new development, how far is it going to go out? What's the street likely? Is it likely to move into a major street? So if there is more developments, is there going to be more traffic? Is this a main thoroughfare? Is there talks about a bridge or a highway being built through that area in the next 5 years? That might be something you want to know. Are there any zoning laws? Is there going to be like a big plant that's going to be built out at some point? Is there a lot of undeveloped land? What's the probability rather that something else is going to be built there, something's going to be built behind your house? And really another thing to check out is home values. Have they been consistently going up? Have they been declining? Those are definitely things to think about when you're posturing to put in an offer. So those are the 10 things. The key takeaways I really want you to take from this is it's very important to have a budget. It's very, very important to know what you're going to be paying in addition to your actual, addition to your expenses plus your mortgage or your rent and what you probably used to have. Definitely sign up with a real estate agent. They're going to be able to give you all this information plus a lot more. Most real estate agents now will offer a consultation where you can sit in and actually talk about the market and the whole process. Just ask them to do so specifically. I always do for mine. Don't expect the property to be perfect, guys. Just don't. It's that diamond in the rough. Somebody's already been looking just as much as you have, or maybe even more. If it's 85 to 95% of what you're looking for, you're going to be satisfied enough that that you have a home and you've been building equity. If you're waiting for that diamond in the rough, as so to speak, you might wait a couple of years and lose out on, $10,000 to $16,000 worth of equity, and now it just doesn't make sense, and you've just been paying somebody else's rent. And the last, of course, is do not neglect that home inspection. Make sure you know what you're buying prior to getting into it. All right, so those are the 10 things that I've got for you, or the 10 common mistakes. If you like this video, make sure to go ahead and like and share it with somebody else if you know that they would like it, or leave a comment below. All right, well, it was great seeing you guys, and I'll see you next time. Maybe.